We are going to record right now. So we only missed one slide, right? That's all. We're not even done with that slide. So the idea of going up into the shop, and we got Brig, who works in the shop, and said, hey, Brig, these guys want to carve a pumpkin and make it cool and do some stuff. What do you got? And that's the adaptive thing. You look around and see what you got. How many times have you cooked a meal that way? You open the refrigerator, you look in there and you see what's not right. And you pull it out and you go, okay, that's an adaptive meal, right? You're adapting to what is available at that moment. That is not a wrong way to run a team under certain circumstances. It's the wrong way to run a business long term. You need to have a business model that's going to work, but being adaptive in even a business model is sometimes a really wise idea that says that we don't have to doggedly continue to do what we've been doing if the market conditions change things. The market conditions change things, maybe we should change what we are doing. COVID did that to a lot of people. Businesses that thought they were going to have to go under changed to saying, let's do remote meetings. Let's not stop doing business. And then they found out they could actually get stuff done that way. And in some cases, they could get it done even more efficiently because everybody was focused on the brass ring instead of who won the game last night. Because the game last night didn't happen. So there was much more efficiency. It kind of accidentally came out of that. That's the adaptive thing that we're looking at, that we have the ability to do in Scrum. We may do some of that in some of the iterations today when we're making airplanes or when we are working the ballpoint. And finally,
It's not restricted to software development projects.
kind of talked about that already, saying that's where it started, but that's not where we are going. Bunch of people, one of whom we've heard on video already, were kind of considered to be the people that started Agile and Scrum, and they have stayed with it. The important thing that I think that is, we acknowledge the founders of stuff, but on occasions the founders wind up actually not being able to stay at it because there's a flaw in it. It doesn't work very well. And when something evolves in business, in business management, like Agile has, and the founders are continuing to stay with it, that's a little bit of a signal that it's 30 years and it's working. And so let's learn what we can out of that. The Agile Manifesto that was written 20 years ago has some things in it that are very, very specific. It is looking at individuals and interactions over processes and tools. How does that compare with Lean?
Direct opposite.
Lean is all about processes, right? And so it's not saying that there's not, the processes don't matter. Processes do matter. What they're saying is that individuals and our interactions with each other trump the processes because we're who make the processes really work, right? It's the team of people. If we had no teams of people, our companies would be dark companies and they'd be profitable.
So it's basically the individuals and the interactions that decide the processes and tools.
You're right
that
on.
we're gonna use.
That's exactly correct. Yeah, and if they're fighting, then this is going to get jacked up. So what it's saying is this will happen if this happens, and that's kind of an important piece of the sequence. As it started in the software business, they decided it's better to have working software with no documentation than it is to have all kinds of documentation for software that is full of hiccups, i.e. Windows Vista. Remember that one? Some of you might. Some of you are too young for that, but it's in the history books. You can read about it. It lasted that long. And then they said, oh, this thing's full of bugs, and we got to figure out other. Now, I'm not supporting all Windows. I understand that there's a thing called Linux, and it doesn't break, So Jake could address that, and we use some things because of the convenience. What this is saying is that you don't need documentation. What it's saying is get it working first, and once it's working, now document. And so we definitely need documentation because the guy that wrote it isn't gonna be there when you need documentation. So you're gonna have to go, but this is true with the design. You know, it make it work. If it works, we can figure out, the parts list. You know, we can reverse engineer it. We have an entire continent that's all they do is reverse engineer stuff, right? With no documentation on it, but they go from working models. This principle in blue here, customer collaboration, is something that is a word only to a lot of businesses. They don't really ever sit down and talk to the customer. They think they know what the customer wants, convinced of it to the point where they invent it and do it. I talked to a company as a consultant in Salt Lake, a company that makes the heaters, the furnaces that's in your RV. They make 80% of them that are on the market. Made in the U.S., that's a good thing. Pretty sure that they know everything about RV furnaces. And the industry of transportation said to them, hey, you know, we spend an awful lot of money every year with our diesels, our drivers are on the road, they pull over the side of the road, they let the truck run all night. And that burns a lot of diesel fuel. They've got to be off duty for 12 hours or 10, whatever the log rules are. They've changed over time, but whatever they are. And then it's cold outside, so they sit there in their diesel and they let it run, they sleep and do, you know, things like that, right? And we need a furnace in the truck so that we can shut the diesel fuel off, right? Because they get 4 miles per gallon on a really good one, you know, it's less than that for others. And so this company was pretty sure they knew everything about their business. So they go, yeah, no problem. We can build a furnace that will go in a Freightliner, you know, T9000 sleeper truck. And they did. They built it. And you know what happened there? They had finished furnaces before they ever talked to a truck driver. And just think about that for a minute. They know everything about furnaces in the RV business. They've got probably over 1 million of them out. So they don't need to talk to anybody about putting a furnace in a semi-truck. That's a no-brainer for them. They know how to do that. But, and somebody on their design team poo-pooed the idea that we ought to talk to some truck drivers. But the fact is they should have. And the fact is that their design 1, their design 2, and their design 3 were all rejected by truck drivers, which caused Freightliner and Peterbilt, KW to reject them also. And so we had that waterfall iteration, right? Product at the end, not once, not twice, 3 times they rejected it. And so the company decided that they couldn't do it. And they just backed out and said, we'll let somebody else have that opportunity. And somebody said, well, let's talk about that again one more time. And this time, we collaborate with customers. And the customers, if you were going to put that in a semi-truck, who would the customers be? I mean, I said truck drivers. That would be one. Who else?
The trucking company.
The transportation company itself that's you know,
Truck
FedEx, or
manufacturer.
the truck manufacturers.
They just haven't pre-installed them on the
Yes. And supply chain, yes, to make sure that we're not putting something weird in there that's not attainable. But the places where the trucks sit in the flying J, the truck stops where truckers sleep, and the DOTs in the various states that allow or disallow truckers to do that. That's who they finally determined were their stakeholders. We're all of those. And they needed to talk to all of those about what is acceptable, what's unacceptable, and what would really be a solution. What would really be better. And if a driver could say, hey, I spend my life on the road, what would be magic for me would be, and they state it, and the trucking company goes, I spend Andrews Transportation, $1 million a week on diesel fuel. Do they want to save fuel? Yeah. So Andrews would answer the question to us, what would make that work would be this. Make that bill with it, right? The Flying J, they would say certain things like, what is the carbon footprint comparing to what our current carbon footprint is? Because whether you know it or not, Flying J is taxed heavily on carbon on their seat. I mean, very heavily, millions of dollars. And so so we get the interests in this conversation, and that's collaboration, saying, okay, what could we come up with that satisfies these interests? And if we've got that done, what happens to this? It almost goes away, doesn't it?
Right.
It's like, you've given me what I want. Okay, I'm in, and then we'll negotiate a deal. Yeah, I mean, I don't want you to hose me, but you're not going to want to hose me if you've talked to me. Up there, you wanted to do it so that we're working together. In Agile, we are adaptive all the time as opposed to doggedly sticking to our plan. I am in favor of company plan. But I will also admit that as many companies as I've worked with the SBDC over a lot of years, the first thing you got to do when you're going to start a business, they'll tell you, you must write a business plan. And you write your business plan. And you take it with you into Zion Bank when you ask for a loan. And they look at that business plan. And they critique it. And they ask you about this number, and about this pro forma, and about this stuff in that business plan. And they finally say, okay, we'll loan you some money. Not all you want, but we'll give you 80% of that. And you go looking at it going, wow, okay, that's awesome. And you don't even think about, can I do it on 80% of it? You just got that, so that's, and so the business plan goes back in your office and it goes on the shelf behind your desk. And it never gets looked at again. Until Zion Bank says, hey, you owe us some money. Let's see your business plan and how you're tracking against it or on it. And I'm not in favor of that. I think your business plan ought to really be something that is giving you a guiding path. It should be helping you make decisions of what you want. But you shouldn't doggedly follow the business plan when there's a change available in the market that will allow you to move forward. Somebody explain this slide to me. We've got XY coordinates. A lot of times we have XY coordinates. We like XY coordinates. What is on the X coordinate?
Clarity or certainty.
Yeah, the technology, how real is it of what we're buying, what we're developing, what we're going to launch? Is it a slam dunk, or is it a pie in the sky kind of a thing that somebody dreamed up and said we could have an electric car that made decisions and drove itself? Well, that was way out there. It's getting closer this way, isn't it? So it's some of you maybe already own one that will most of the time drive itself. A Kia will drive you from here to the Las Vegas airport pretty much while you're on your laptop, with their cruise control thing. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm just reporting that I'm surprised that that's not it's not a Lamborghini. That's a Kia that's driving you to, and they're not the only ones. There's a lot of them do it. So technology, how far out is the technology? What's the Y coordinate? What are we going to do? What's the plan? And are we far from agreement? We got one dreamer in the R&D department that's a visionary. He sees it all. We got a genius with 1,000 helpers. Go and help us do that. And we're way up there. Or do we pretty much have everybody on the team go, yeah, this is what we're going to do? And so this is telling us kind of how difficult it's going to be to manage this project. And if you've got one genius that's got a great idea, but nobody else on the team understands it, and they've got some dream technology, what you will be dealing with on your team is anarchy. You won't be able to pull a team together easily. So the task, this model really is just saying, okay, the better I can get to agreement on what the requirements is, the easier this thing's going to be to manage. So that means I've got to get this dreamer to articulate what they're thinking about, and I've got to break this wild idea down into some doable steps so that it becomes feasible. Somebody said in 1900 it's possible to fly an airplane. And in 1900 nobody had ever done it. Da Vinci had drawn about it. few hundred years earlier. You know, nobody ever pulled it off. And so that was way out here, far from certainty about how are we gonna do it and how would we go about it. If that was your project team, and by the way, there were some well-funded project teams that failed on that one. I may talk about those sometime because it's very interesting to me. Where Orville and Wilbur were just two of them, how easy it was for them to get agreement on what they were gonna try. And what did an iteration look like for them? They drove from Ohio down to North Carolina on a beach and took a shot at it. Put wings on a bicycle and took some Red Bull and they rode like hell. I don't know, that's how it exactly happened, but it was very interesting. They wrecked a bunch of them. And nobody was financing them, nobody cared, nobody else was involved. It wasn't this big team that was in anarchy or a complex evolution. It was, they believed in what they were trying to do, and they were already close to it was a simple project for them. Their competitor was financed by what became General Motors, Fisher Body, and had a lot of money behind them, but it was all, that's a different story. I didn't intend to tell that story. But the model here is telling us if I want to be able to manage a project, I want it to be a simple project, so I've got to move these things. The technology can still be out there, but it has to be doable out there. One of the biggest projects I took on that was like this, some of you know my history, and I took over a company, public company, on December the 17th of one year. The guy that was the CEO had stolen $2 million cash out of Zions Bank on the day of the 16th, December 16th. On December 15th, he gave Christmas checks and bonuses to 170 people. Took $2 million cash out of the bank the next day. The FBI was looking for him the next day and appointed me CEO of the company. That ain't the way you want to become CEO of the company, but anyway, that is what actually happened. And this company was in trouble. I had no cash. Guy took all the cash. We had receivables, we had stuff, but we had no cash. And so I had to go to everybody and say, hey, we got no cash. You have a right to quit and get another job. I fully expect that. I went to every person one-on-one in Germany, United States, and China, every employee, and talked to them about the facts, about what the reality, what we had, and what we were trying to do. But what we were trying to do, what I thought we should try to do with that company at that point in time, nobody had built a colored Doppler ultrasound machine so that the scans were all in black and white. Nobody ever put one in color where you could see direction of flow and other things that colored in the screen at that point in time. Nobody had done it, but I thought it could be done. I talked to the guys up here that were pretty sure that it could be done. So the far from certainty was, let's see if we can engineer and roll out a color Doppler ultrasound machine by May the 1st, because May the 5th, 6th, or 7th, I don't remember the day that year, there's a show in Chicago that happens every year. It's called RSNA, it's Radiological Society of North America. It's where all the hospitals and doctors do go to buy MRI machines, CT scanners, diagnostic ultrasound stuff. It's where the radiologists go. They give talks, they do that, and they come from all over the world. It's an enormous show, and that's the place where you get noticed if you've got something new. And so that was the deadline. So that was the deadline. The team was far from agreement, and the project was far from certainty. The only way you could manage something like that was to talk to the experts, of whom I'm not one of, and get together as to what the requirements would be for our company to be able to build a color Doppler ultrasound machine that had never been built before, and have it done by May. And so it was far from certain, and we were far from agreement. The only way we could do that was to get the team to move these two bars this direction. That's exactly the model that you have to follow, whether you do it consciously or subconsciously. We did it consciously. I drew that, and because this had been published just barely at that point in time. And I said, that's the magic. That's what we need to do, is to get everybody on that team so that we can move this down this way, so that it was complicated, but you know what, we did it. And we did it because we were able to get everybody to get to the simplistic pieces that had to be put together in order to do that. None of the things were out there in terms of untouchable science. The technology was all there, it just never been put together in one instrument before. And so taking it and putting it all together in one instrument seemed to be very doable, but you had to explain that to everybody so they agreed on the project. I think you've all worked on projects exactly like that, where there was something that was out there and only one person really grasped it. And when you do that, you've got a tiger by the tail, and it's gonna be really, really tough to bring that project in on time and on budget. You might get it done, but getting it on time, on budget is only gonna happen as we move it towards the simple. And that's what Scrum is about, is the ability to do that. And this is a drawing that you will see every time you look up Scrum on Google. Somewhere, somebody will have a drawing, something like this. Now let's look at a couple of things that are key on this slide. We have product backlog. That means those are the pieces that need to go into our project to get to the end point. And we don't know what they are, we just have to get the team together and listen. What all we gotta do? Well, we gotta get stained, we gotta get a way to dry it, we gotta get a way to hold the boards together, we gotta get a way to get the finish shiny. Whatever those pieces are, in order to get this big product of a wilding wall bed that's gonna fold down and dazzle somebody, those are all pieces that have to be done. We're building an awning on somebody's patio. There's pieces of that have to be done. The footing has to be there, the structural support has to be there. How are you gonna span it? If it's gonna automate, whatever it is. That's all the backlog. On day one of the project, none of it's done. So it's all backlog, right? All of that has to get done, but none of it's done yet. So the backlog is here, and we will then take each little piece and develop it into a sprint. And that sprint will be done, and we will have a scrum that occurs a given amount of in a given amount of repeatable days. So in software development, it's typically every month. So you have a month-long scrum. Today we're going to do some in the class. Eli, you're looking at a 4, 5, 6 minute scrum. 4 minute. You're going to do a 4-minute scrum. So this scrum, the top 24-hour piece, is not going to be done every day. It's going to be done every 4 minutes in our class today. And so what is going to allow 30 days for the full cycle to do this block of the backlog, we're going to get an update on it every 24 hours. So we're going to have a scrum meeting every morning or every afternoon, whatever the time is. If it's software, they work at night. If it's software, you're going to do a scrum meeting, after the night news and then get everybody going on their scrum. And then we have increments of where we are going to develop this and reveal it, develop this and reveal it, develop this and reveal it. And then all the pieces eventually will get put together at the end, not during the sequence. Does that kind of make a little sense? After you read your homework assignment of the handouts, it will hopefully start to make more sense. And then we'll talk about it and we'll do it again in class. There are a few things that are really, really not intuitive. They're mind stretchers of a sort. One of them is that I don't have a laser pointer. Why would Logi Company make one of these without a laser pointer in it? They didn't talk to customers, did they? They didn't talk to me yet. It said, gotta have a laser pointer on this.
That's the upgraded version.
So this looks very much like the PDAC cycle that some of you are familiar with Deming. And we do that in sequence. And in Scrum, we don't do it sequence. We do it all in parallel type of a thing. So you can see the test is purple. So the test started in order, maybe. It was the last thing we did. But we're testing all the way through the project so that by this time, this is the final test. But we're doing backlog piece, backlog piece, backlog piece testing as we go. All 4 of those are being done in a software world, overlapping kind of at the same time. And that gives us a lot more efficiency if we want to do it. The framework of a Scrum, there's a few new words here. We have roles. We have the owner of the project, and that's sometimes in the company, and sometimes it's company collaboration with the customer. The best times it's in collaboration with the customer. We have the Scrum Master and we have the team. All of you in this class will perform the duties of a Scrum Master at some point before we're done at Christmas time. So you'll be learning more about being a Scrum Master. We will have ceremonies. It's kind of nice to call them ceremonies in a business setting. It's a party if it's the frat house, but it's a ceremony if it's at work, but it's a similar thing. We order 90 pizzas from the Papa John's, right? And we have ceremonies. So there are specific things that we do that are always. We have a sprint plan. The plans today will be in a time box. And the time box means that you have a start and a stop time, and you don't go out of the box on timing. And with Agile, that's an important thing. That's a metronome, sort of like tack time in a lean setting. We have specific time boxes, and the Scrum will have a time box. The planning meeting will have a time box. I think 1 minute is what Eli's going to give us of the planning. It will have a review after the sprint is done. We will have a retrospective, which I will define a little bit better later, and there will be a daily huddle, we might want to call this. This isn't different from tonight's Thursday night football game. The teams that are playing, the Cardinals and the Saints, Cardinals and Saints, I couldn't remember that for a minute. Both those teams have strategic plans for the season. They've had injuries that have occurred up to this point, week 7 into the season, and that has changed the plans. They've had to be adapting, right? Because starting quarterbacks are hurt, different people are in the game, and so they have their strategic planning. And this happens, every Monday morning after Sunday's football games. There's a team meeting about what that's part of the retrospective. What happened to this last game? Our secondary died. We don't know what happened, where they went, and we talk about that. Then as the game starts, we have daily Scrum meetings in a Agile setting. Thursday night football, they have a huddle. Sometimes they call 2 plays in the huddle, but that's the biggest horizon they have in the huddle. They're not talking about what they're going to do next week when they play the Giants. They're not talking about that in the huddle. They're not talking about what the defense did or didn't do. They're talking about what are we doing right now. That's what the huddle's about. You've got this assignment, you've got this, I'm going to do that. Everybody's on the same page. And when they don't pull it off on the same page, it becomes obvious on national television, doesn't it? Quarterback throws a bomb to nobody. Nobody there at all because they didn't get the signal that that's what they were supposed to do. The huddle went wrong. And so the same thing happens in our Scrums. If we don't have Scrum meetings, we very easily go wrong. It's much better to catch it tomorrow morning. That yesterday we did the wrong thing. We made a left turn. We're talking about a right turn. We didn't have agreement in our meeting. So that daily Scrum meeting is kind of an update, and that is also in a time box. That's slow. Usually the framework of the Scrum is we have a 2-hour meeting for the month. So that's the box that we usually have. On the daily Scrum meetings, that's usually 5 or 15 minutes. And often that's not a sit-down meeting, it's a stand-up, it's in front of a whiteboard, everybody contributing to the meeting, getting everybody on the same page of what did I get done yesterday, what do I have to do today, how do I need you to help me? Those kinds of questions get answered in the daily Scrum meeting. This is a brand new term, the artifacts. That has a lot of definitions. If you look it up in archaeology in ancient Egypt, the artifacts is what they found in the tomb. That's the paperwork that's left 5,000 years later. That's kind of what this is. The artifacts are the stuff that remains when our projects are done. These are the things that show the documentation of what our backlogs were as we go along. We've got 2 kinds of charts in Scrum that I think are kind of cool. We have burn up charts and we have burn down charts. Now burn down is kind of what you'd think of it. It's you've got this backlog and you're trying to burn through it, and as you're burning your way down through the project, you want to get to that point where none are left. You've burned it down. You've burned the whole project planning down here at the end. You're ready to test. Burn up happens at the very beginning. What are the things that have to do to get to the point where we can do a burn down? Those are 2 charts, and those are artifacts. Those charts will remain. You'll turn them in with your project reports. This is what the customers will look at, your bosses will look at. They will see how we track our project. And this is how we'll get graded as project managers. This is where they decide that we're pretty good at what we do. So the roles that we have in a scrum is we have a team, we have the dude that's, or dudette that's in charge of the whole thing. And then we have, what is the, where's the dollars coming from normally in our setting? How is this being funded? Usually the people funding it are the product owners. They're usually the people that are the project owners at least. So those are the roles in a scrum. They use pigs and chickens, and it's okay for us to have identification of pigs and chickens. In a scrum, usually you heard on the video we watched at 3M, it was, here's the project that we want to do, who has available time, who wants to do this project, and that is contrary to every business owner I've ever talked to one-on-one. Unless they've come out of this background and see how it works, they want to tell you what to do. They don't want people to volunteer to be on a team. You want to be on the scrum? They tell you you should be on the scrum. They command you to be on the scrum. And in true scrum environments, that's not the way it works. The teams select themselves by people that are enthusiastic and want to be on the team. And that is very, very new school. People, the closer you are to my age, the harder that is to do. And yet, it's incredibly powerful when we finally figure it out. When people want to be on a team, their productivity is way better than when I tell them they have to be on a team. And they participate, they get it done, they make it happen. So we'll talk a little bit more about the pigs and the chickens at some point in time. We have planning meetings. In the planning meetings, we talk about what order we need to do things, the goal we need to achieve, how we're going to go about doing it, what the tasks of the backlog, those are interchangeable terms. Backlog is a new way of talking about it to most of you. Up to this point in time, when somebody in your company talked about your backlog, it usually was contracts that you had that people wanted to buy stuff from you. Purchase orders, jobs that you'd already signed a deal on. In Cedar City, there's a company that makes jet aircraft, corporate jets type thing. Was called Cyberjet. They just announced rollout. The government gave them a new name. And, they're up there in Cedar City, and their backlog at one point was 200 jet airplanes, and that was units. That was what was called the backlog. In Scrum, that's not what the word backlog means. Backlog is a task that we have to do in order to deliver. And we will talk about another new term. We will talk about user stories. And I'll define how this is what the project looks like. So if I am a user of this website of Amazon and I need to be able to see an item and in one click make a purchase, that's a user story. So now the software people take that story and say, how do we make the product do what that story says? So how do we do it that you visually can look and that you can, in one click, and it now can make a purchase or whatever the story is. And so we will start project with stories from the user's point of view of what the user wants to be able to do. And those user stories then will form the features that we need to include in the product, and that then creates the tasks that will become our backlog. Does that kind of make sense? We're doing it now, but we're not calling it these things, and we're probably not doing it in that sequence. And so this gives us the ability now to say, okay, for this backlog, I got a stack of 5 backlogs, and I got a month for each of them. Well, that's who says it should take a month to do each one, and who says that we can get it done in a month. So part of the sprint planning is to look at how many hour commitments is required, because I may need some help. I may need to say, you know what, we need to get this thing done by Friday, and that's tomorrow. And so Friday, I need some help, and I'm asking who can help me to get this tomorrow. And so we're looking at number of hours, and we're creating a team based on that new piece of information that's based on the stories and based on the backlog. So that is kind of some new language that we will talk about. The daily Scrum meeting, remember it's going to be quick. It is gonna be often in a place where we can write on the wall. And whether it's actually physically writing on the wall or putting sticky notes up, or whatever it is, it's tracking how our scrum is going. A lot of companies, the two next door to us here, charge $5 if you're late to a meeting. They don't charge $1. They charge $5. Yes, sir.
Maybe for money.
I think they party with it.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's what they do. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think they party with it. The whole world is invited to the Scrum meeting, but it's not a problem-solving meeting, and only the people on the team can talk. So if the boss shows up and they're not on the Scrum team, they don't talk. That's a discipline that most companies aren't used to at all. And now they can talk after it. You know, they can go to individuals as the boss. I mean, they have the right to do that. But in the discipline of the Scrum, that's not the boss's meeting. That's the Scrum team's meeting, and the boss is there as a guest. And so that is sacred, really. The three questions that every team member answers, in this case, a 15-minute thing. What did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? And what's in your way to get it done? If I know that day by day by day for all the stuff that we got going in a company, and I got people that are answering that question every day, we have the ability for a much more streamlined process. Don't we? We don't sit there and wait for the thing to self-resolve. Well, I called him, he hadn't called me back. When did you call him? 2 weeks ago. What just happened there? You know, we just lost a gap of time inefficiently. When we talked about artifacts, Scrums don't have a ton of them. That means there's not a lot of paperwork that's required. We want it to be simple, right? And so in keeping it simple, we a lot of times will just use a cocktail napkin and put numbers down on it. You know, it's not the kind of thing, Excel spreadsheet you can use. You can buy software to do it. I would advise you not to. Unless your company is sophisticated and they want the same kind of software reporting to be done internationally. You got offices all over. They want the same language taught, spoken in all of them. That's, you know, they need software to do it. My teams rarely do. My teams are small. We're here. You know, don't go off the curve learning all this software. Just do this. You know, what do we need to do to get this thing done? And you can easily document that on Rolodex cards. Toyota is big on that. Some of you have talked about ERP or systems, and Toyota resists those big time because that just gets way complicated. It gives you a lot of chances to get things wrong. Whereas, you know, you got a Rolodex card, you know, they know what a Rolodex still is. Staples doesn't. Nobody uses Rolodexes anymore. But 3x5 cards are still sold at Walmart. And you can do some very interesting things with 3x5 cards at Walmart. I've been to the Department of Motor Vehicles office on 3 occasions, separated by 10 years, all 3 times in the state of New Hampshire. The state of New Hampshire does not keep driver's license information on their computer system. They have a big room in the Capitol building in Concord. It's with desks, not desks, counter in a ring around the middle. I think the rotunda is like above it. And they've got like 60 people working in that room. And they've got 3x5 cards everywhere. And so everybody's got a driver's license in the state of New Hampshire is on one of these 3x5 cards. When the cops radio in and check, somebody goes 24 hours a day, somebody buzzes through and gets the answer right there on pencil and paper. Now, and they do that on purpose. They don't want, they're live free or die as their license plate. And, you know, they don't want electronic tracking for people, and they think it's better if your driver's license information is just on a pencil and paper in the Capitol building. And if the people need it, have access to it, the people that don't can't hack it. There's no hacking it at all. And you go, how could you do that in today's day and age? How do the insurance companies stand it? How do they not then? And what they tell the insurance companies, you want to create your own database, go for it. But we're not going to do it. We're not buying the software, and we're not buying the computer mainframes and paying for security systems. We're just paying these people by the hour. They all love what they're doing. And it works. So I don't know. I'm not saying that's the right system. I'm just saying that it can be done. We can do it simple that way. I think we've talked about these. The story points on these stories we haven't talked about other than this. So here's the template for your story. The user stories are who, what, and why. So as a who, as a user, or as a customer, or as a truck driver, or whatever that is, as the user, the who, I want to, what? What is it that I want to do? I want to be able to sit on my back patio without the sun shining on. So I can relax and not get sunburned. That's a user story for a customer buying an awning and a patio. Starts there. And then we find out, is that the only user story? What are the points of their story that's critical? Do I need to know size of the patio? Do I need to know the direction facing of the house? Maybe I need some other story points to make that story work. But that becomes the fundamental basis of what we're doing in Scrum. All right. So once we break it down into steps, we can estimate what kind of effort it's going to take. We add it all up, and we get an idea of what the effort is. So here's, as a guest, I want to make a reservation. As a guest, I want to cancel a reservation. As a guest, I want to change the dates of a reservation. Those are things that I all want to do when I'm on the website for Hilton, or whoever it is that I look, Motel 6, wherever it is that I'm looking. And so if you're doing software for that company, those are the stories that you need to know. And then you need to write to those stories. And as an employee of the hotel, I want to run revenue per room data with a button. I talked to you about, I want to get stuff off my cell phone into file. That's a user story. And right now we don't have good apps or software to do that. So it looks like this for a real project. Individuals sign up for work of their own choice. Work is never assigned. That's a big, big problem for guys like me and Andrew. That takes a, you don't do that on day one. You don't go, we're going to be a Scrum operation, this is what we're going to do. It'll fall apart. Don't do it that way. We have to teach it. We have to do it small. We have to do some exercises. We have to slowly understand what it is that we're trying to do to get more efficient. And that has to be bought in by everybody in the organization. And we'll talk much more about that later because that's a requirement to run good projects in a Scrum or an Agile type of a setting. These are going to be adaptive, so we're going to learn something tomorrow that we don't know today. As we learn that, it's going to get updated in the backlog. It's going to get updated in our Scrum meetings. We're going to change as we go. We are going to have some sort of a visual of what people are working on this week and what we've got waiting to get done and what is done. Burn down chart is like this. This is day 0 to day 21. That's 4 weeks worth of work in this setting. And so this is how much we projected to get to this point. This is how much we actually got down as we did it. And we're measuring, in this case, we're measuring effort in hours. That's your labor cost. And so you look at what we're investing to get to that burn down spot that we need to go to. I don't need to talk about these at this point in time. You see how that can go. We have a lot of scrums. The makeup, when we have a lot of them, we then have projects. Here's a table in your handout that you could look at with more detail if you wanted to compare when I talked about the spiral and the waterfall approach. If you know something about those, if you don't, you can ignore them because it's Scrum that we're talking about. And that's that. All right, that was a warp speed view of kind of what Scrum's about. We've been talking about Agile, and Agile has Scrums in it. And so I think what's left is we should do a couple. And I think we'll start out with Jake's, and I'm looking at time-wise, maybe we'll take a quick break. And when we come back from break, we're going to do Jake's exercise, and then when we are finished with that, we'll at least start out on making airplanes. we'll get as far as we can on that. It depends on how good a Scrum Master he is, really, right? That's what it turns out to be. Take a break, we'll see you back in 10.
There are vending machines, I'm not gonna have this, I got this, but yeah, there is. Up on, level 3. Yeah, and then.
I'm the manager of this team.
Scrum Master?
I'm the manager. I'm the scrum master.
It's just, you've got
I
this.
would actually appoint you as my assistant to basically corral the minions.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially, we're gonna be
It was the
Tossing balls.
scoring sheet, it was the front side of the
Like-
scoring sheet that you kept score
Two
on.
people, a group.
That you kept score of people's presentations.
We're gonna take balls.
You were doing it, I saw you doing it.
They can't be
It
passed.
was, the
next to
backside
each other
had
to the
a
left.
table on it.
You can't go left or
They
right.
can't go left or right, and they have to go airborne, so you can't
Okay.
just have
Okay.
it. So
That's what
you
it
have
was.
2 minutes
On that,
to get
what you were
many
scoring
balls through
people
the
on,
system.
those are the pieces.
Feeding it to just one person at the same time and then they,
That's up to you.
okay.
So, it says
No, that's just reflecting.
the rules. So, you're one big team, cannot change the team size.
Oh.
Each team member must touch the ball
Oh,
to
okay.
count. As each ball is passed between team members, must have air time. Cannot be
I
passed
certainly
directly
can print
from hand to
mine
hand.
right there, I think I
Cannot
have
pass
it.
the ball to the person immediately to the left or the right. And if you drop the ball, you cannot pick it up. There will be a penalty when it's deducted if you break any of the rules. Every ball must end where it started. For each ball that does, the team scores 1 point. You have to do that as many times as
So
you
the
can.
report is just really easy.
And this is just as all of us is one big group, okay? So, I get everybody in a circle, I open a bag, go around, and each person.
What are you doing these days?
Well, I lightly toss it to,
What's this one?
oh, okay, so that's what I was gonna say, so I can have the same handball, this person, they throw it to someone, handball,
So
that same person. they throw
This
it
is
to
kind of
someone.
what I was thinking. I'm gonna draw it. Here. You got
So where's the camera shot at?
in the line, so it starts
Oh,
with one person.
okay,
boom,
gotcha.
boom, boom, boom,
Okay.
boom, and then eventually it goes
That's cool.
back.
Okay, and everybody touches.
Good set of things to know.
Yeah, I like that.
So,
You
but
got 2 rows.
you could
You
be
pull up knowledge. and
running
then
into
you
this
get
person's
involved.
tossing here while this person's tossing here. So you're gonna have to figure that out.
And-
Well, hopefully we can catch good ones.
And I will,
But better to get some training with your dad's friend. You know.
so at that point in time, it says in all you'll do 5 iterations and record the estimate. So essentially, you'll do it for 2 minutes, and then you'll have 1 minute the learning time to improve and take notes as to how
Okay.
you talk here. I'm gonna look at this person, they're gonna look at me. We're gonna have a moment. I'm gonna throw the ball, they're gonna catch it.
So was there another one that says nobody can be holding more?
Well, there's
It
many
does not
ways
say
to
that.
Okay, cool.
It just says, the ball has to go, this is you're the one, you gotta work as one big team, you cannot change your team size. Every team member must touch each ball for it to count.
Okay.
He runs in stuff.
As each ball is passed between team members, it must have air time.
What he does is stuff.
Meaning it must not be passed directly from hand to hand, and you cannot pass the ball to the person on your immediate left or right.
Okay, so I like what you got going. Definitely idea of that. Okay, cool.
Cause then that way, and I would stagger. So I would have one person and then go back.
Yeah, yeah.
So this person feeds there and comes here, and then eventually it'll all come back to that person. That person has an input and an output. So that real person's really the only person who could potentially be.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So go like that.
Okay.
This is just my idea.
No, I like that.
You can try it.
I was
That's
gonna do a
freebie.
circle, but I feel like
We can try a circle, see what happens.
I
I
think
think
we-
a circle. I was thinking about that, and I was like,
It-
I think
it's-
it's more prone to get
we-
drops.
yeah,
There's
the more
it's a,
close to get
it's a
drops,
stiff
more balls are
word.
gonna be in the air at the same time.
And,
Potential
you
hit.
know, you kind
And
of
the
have to
only
hear
opportunity
yourself.
you have
What
be
is it
like a
that you
start.
want to do?
Yeah.
And you have to
processes have a natural and optimal velocity, what are the bottlenecks, and how were they identified, and all
Put the
that.
basic parameters.
So,
Cool. Sweet. Let's just see how this.
Some of the others say-
I think we got.
If people are interested in doing that, they'll pop out a sketch, put it up there, you pick the one you like and price. And then boom. Why should you do it yourself? Let them, they've got the software running and the cheap. I've seen companies designing videos $25. I got an idea that I want. And my daughter did that for coffee shop, she's opening a club.
Yeah, I mean, so hey, you turn something in house like that, it's a beautiful write-up.
You know, she'd say,
It's-
"Look, I'm
it's-
cook chocolate against-"
It's perfect, man. It's absolutely perfect for what you're
She
looking for.
had
So,
6 choices.
thank
And
you.
she narrowed it down to 6.
I mean,
And then those 6 go.
it's absolutely,
More complete. And give her a
Yeah.
good price, she gave it for the money, and it wasn't much. And
yeah,
delivered
it
for
works perfectly, you know what I mean?
I think if we-
Definitely gonna be a copy-paste type of situation,
Yeah, it says,
you know?
Yeah.
you know,
Say we
with
use the
picture
same
of
thing,
this,
so,
And then let somebody run it. And then
Yeah.
they submit.
well, I mean, there's no better way to write it than the way that you wrote it, so,
And,
yeah.
almost
it-
all of
it-
those that I've been familiar with, which is not too
Yeah.
many, there's 3 of them. Once you do
And,
that,
well,
you own
that's
it.
good, right?
You
So, I mean,
don't have to.
he had me present, he gave me 5 minutes, I probably
You
could,
bought it from them as if they were your employee.
I don't know.
I will give
Six.
you the name of a few of those.
So,
And you can explore them
just 'cause I
and
was,
see, 'cause
it
I think
asked
that's
me, you know what I mean?
yeah, fun for you.
But it was, the write-up is perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah, it really is, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, we do.
Just out of honesty. Mhm. Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And people who buy them don't care whether it's printed or something.
So- Well, it's not you playing.
I'm not gonna be laying off the truck. You'll be playing.
Do that, dude.
So. You have to let somebody else start, you can be in the middle,
I'm
you
gonna
know.
have everybody run it. We're gonna have to offset.
You're gonna have to offset it. Start.
Does it say how far we got to go? I should go airborne though, so.
Yeah, that'll
It's
spread fast.
airborne,
Yeah.
so
And it's
theoretically.
not the should. it's
Like
the
5
self.
feet,
It's
so.
safe.
Oh, yeah.
It's out there driving on something unidentified.
No. But it says other hands can't touch, right? I think we might have to do.
I went to Formula One.
Must not be passed directly from hand to hand. So I guess you do have to toss it.
So we have to do it for the way that you do.
Go figure.
You cannot pass the ball to the person either to your left or right. So you have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not what it said.
No. Cool.
I'm gonna be like your project manager and I've assigned you to be the team lead. So you're gonna manage everybody. My goal is for as many of these balls to get back without touching the ground, without shaking.
When you do all fields
I
bad.
have 3 bags balls.
Leave.
So we'll do a 2-minute limit. So I'll keep track of 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I think we're mostly all back, and Jake has the floor and is in charge, and if you remember, we read the Scrum rules, it's adaptive. Says you join if you want to join. This one you're joining. I want you to join.
This one you've been voluntold to do it
Voluntold?
instead of volunteered. So we're gonna play a game called Ballpoint. And essentially, we're going to try and get all of these tennis balls through the team as quickly as possible. Each tennis ball is a point. If it drops on the ground, or if you break any of the very simple rules, it's a deduction of your points. And I'm going to take the role as kind of the project manager, and I've appointed my buddy Eric here as the team leader, so he's
Okay.
going to organize the team, and I'll
Okay.
keep track of the progress.
And there's one team, and it's all of us, right?
Yep,
Not
one
me,
team, and it's
all
all
of
of
you
us.
guys.
So the rules are: you are one big team. You cannot change the size of your team. Every team member must touch the ball for it to count. As the ball is passed between team members, it must have airtime. It must not be passed directly from hand to hand. You cannot pass the ball to the person immediately to your left or right. And if you drop the ball, you cannot pick it up. There will be a penalty, basically points deduction, if you break any of the rules, and every ball must end where it started. For each ball that does this, the team will score 1 point. We're going to do it in 2-minute cycles with 1 minute of learning time in between each cycle. So, let's go.
Alright, let's get everybody in 2 rows lining up, facing each other.
Wow. Plan.
We've kind of got a plan.
Okay.
We're going to try.
They got felt on.
There you go. So everybody get somebody.
What's that?
Throw it in.
So how many do you think? Oh, I forgot. We got to estimate as a team.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna start.
Hold on. We've got a clarification.
So we also have to estimate as a team how many balls you think you're going to get through the system. So
Okay.
you can see if there's an improvement.
So you can't pass the ball from right or left to you, so I'm gonna start, I'm gonna throw it to you, you're gonna go to you, to her, then we're gonna zigzag it back up, and then we should be able to work them back with everybody touching the ball, and it'll all end up with me, this person just starts it, theoretically.
How many balls do you think we're gonna be able to do, and what's the time limit?
So, we got 2-minute increments, is it?
2 minutes.
And then, what was it, if you drop one?
Are we doing more than 1 ball at a time?
We're doing 3 bags of these, so it's gonna be gone. So just, okay. No, they gotta work their way back, all the way to the.
Are you open to suggestions?
Yes.
Can we go a circle?
We thought about that we can try a circle. We can try a circle.
What's your
I mean, I guess,
The balls have to go.
we can't go left to right, so I guess that doesn't work,
Yeah.
right? But I just, because we're trying to get as many balls as possible, and we're going back and forth like this, eventually, I'm gonna have to
Oh, yeah.
catch and.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can even just
Yeah,
bend the whole dual lines around in a circle and then have everyone facing back to back on the inner circle. And
Oh, I
the
see what you're
circle
saying.
a little spread
Yeah.
out. That way it does end up
try
back
it.
in.
You wanna do this one?
alright.
Well, how many times?
It's going.
But we could figure out a steady pace for what's going to work.
You're always gonna be feeling
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You, him, her, and then if you go from her
Alright.
On the way back. On the way back.
and whenever you get the ball, you throw it back to them.
Yeah, so you have, how do you know which ball, I guess you have to remember if it's coming this way, well, you're gonna have to track that. That's
You guys ready?
So is everybody else
about
ready?
going back again that way.
Until somebody drops one? I'm gonna say at least the bag.
They're all
At least the bag. Yeah. All gonna be good luck.
So we're going 12 in 2 minutes?
12 and 2 minutes is what he's.
Okay, what's
Yeah,
that?
they gotta have air time. Good. Is everybody ready? Yeah, I mean, you can be closer, you just can't, I just can't. Just can't handle it. That's it. It has to go in, it has to go in there. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can do that.
As the rules say, it cannot be.
So,
Or
how
yeah,
about
you can
this?
even do that.
Hey, we got, how about this, how about an idea, right? So it says it has to have airtime, right? That does not necessarily mean throw.
Yeah, well, I can't, you can just drop it in the
Yeah,
other person's
alright.
hand.
So there we go.
You guys hear that?
Well, what's classified as directly hand to hand, like, going like that?
Yeah, that way we don't have.
It's gotta have airtime. Airtime is airtime.
Alright, we'll try it like this.
I mean, airtime on your Jeep, y'all know what that is.
They didn't say, there's no.
Yeah, we can,
Need a second.
yeah, we can adapt, so.
Have to
Alright.
You can't.
Not on the ball, yeah.
Oh, you gotta go straight to him and he goes straight to you.
You guys drop it in past.
Should we make ourselves more zigzags so we know who we're actually going to, or?
I kinda see.
We're running out of planning time here. We got the planning box.
Yeah, we're gonna have to stagger ourselves in order to get the zigzag.
And do we wanna start going closer?
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So everybody's gotta stay
Are
on
we
the
inside the planning phase still, or we gotta go?
Oh, but we stand closer.
Yeah, because you're gonna be like,
I'm good.
There you go, like this right here.
Is everybody ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Well, once it comes back, then.
Look back. As soon as you toss, look back.
There you go. Don't forget to, it's coming to you.
It's coming along. Yeah. We dropped one down.
That's all right, that's all right.
A little more high up.
it can't go hand in hand.
I think it's getting close to coming back. It's got, it's come away.
You go ahead.
30
We got
seconds.
some cloggage back here, we got some cloggage going on. I guess I gotta get this started.
Left hand.
Take that one.
Okay, for one.
Everybody have to touch them all the way back, just toss them clear.
Yeah, say you got one.
Everybody has to touch it, right? It just has to be taken in the back.
All has to touch on the way back.
Okay, well, it doesn't.
Short here.
touch everyone's hand. It has, once it comes back this way.
Almost like from on here and then.
Yeah, so you.
You gotta throw it all the way.
You can just run them back.
You can?
It doesn't say they have to touch on it, just.
They just have to index the same spot.
That ball's already been down
Yep,
there.
we've already.
Hey, let's
Start bringing it back.
start bringing them back.
Oh, you're the last.
Okay.
Yeah, they've gone, she's back that way.
You're at a minute, 25 seconds.
Or yeah, even the last words they're gonna talk.
We just
about
rotate.
being heard.
We thought you
Everybody
were
has to
gonna
touch it, they don't say how they gotta be back there, right? So when she goes, he goes down there, he just needs to stay.
So one more here, though. Everybody's touching.
Second one down.
That's just stuff from free.
He has to touch them.
Huh?
Who has to touch it?
Before they go in.
I have to touch them last.
You have to touch them last?
Yeah. So yeah, if they work all the way down, that'd probably be better.
All right, 2 minutes. Stop where you're at.
Alright, stop.
It's been 2 minutes.
We got.
Okay, at the end of scrum 1.
I'm just gonna back up.
Yes.
What? We
Yeah, I kind of like the work
sucked.
to the end and then just toss it.
What if we take the rectangle?
Okay, what's the count?
We're still going zigzags.
13 is the count. Forecasted 12, you got 13, so that's pretty
That's
good.
exactly what you said here.
Okay.
We're back.
Jake, how many minutes do they have to
1 minute.
1 minute right now to replan?
So we could either work them all the way down and I can either give a toss back to me or somebody can roll to me and I can touch them on my foot.
But that's still down the ground.
They can't be on the ground?
Nope. That's
You
the
can't,
first
you
point.
can't drop them. Alright, then toss, then I say toss.
What if we take the rectangle and make it into the U and still zigzag back? He has to be the one putting it out.
He's gotta be the last one
Yeah,
to
I'll
touch
be the
him.
one to touch
So-
them last.
You have to be the first one to touch him?
First and last.
If he throws and we catch,
Oh, yeah.
You throw,
just keep the
you
line.
throw him back, yeah, no.
Find out, right?
Gotta have it every time. Yeah.
Go for it.
So Jake, do you consider Joel and Brad to be next to each other?
It'll be faster because.
They're across from each other.
Across from each other. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So,
So if he just throws it,
but.
You just gotta be paying attention, right?
55
You communicate
seconds.
Incoming, right?
You need a new forecast. What's your forecast?
Is there like another bucket?
All right, just throw it over. He just throws it over.
What's the
Is there another bucket I could use?
no?
Oh, sorry.
You gotta speak up, man. Incoming 4.
just say throw it every time you throw one.
Oh, I was gonna go ahead, I got it.
Once I get the ball, I
Just chuck it back to him, he's gonna catch and throw.
Okay, you've been a minute 30 seconds. We're
All right.
ready to start the next scrum.
forecast.
Forecast, what is it?
14.
Oh, I was
14 it is.
Alright, let's do 20.
20?
20?
Alright.
High expectations. You just gotta
Okay,
catch.
forecast 20.
Alright, ready? Go.
Somebody, whoever
You
gets
gotta
the
throw him
last
high
one,
enough so
say
it's
it.
not.
Yeah, definitely speak up.
I'm timing.
Two down.
Three down. I'm incoming, let's stop the toss.
Yell out incoming. Yell out incoming.
Speak up.
Yell out. Yell it out. Yell out
I'm gonna
incoming.
back up a little bit, I'm behind Denver, so I can get hit, I mean.
Ball was still right here. Just gotta put it in the ball for him.
Can't grab it so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so open it apart and then grab
Hand
it.
him off and let him
Oh my god.
Oh!
Wow.
That was a quick snap burst there, I wouldn't have expected to come that quick.
Maybe he needs a catch. I could go down there and catch him and hold him for him.
Okay, it's 1 minute.
Oh, not even close.
Where we at, Jake?
I don't know.
Are you going 2 minutes?
Yeah. 44 seconds.
We could all pass.
Alright, catch up.
I'm seeing yellow kind of corner.
20 seconds.
I think we're
I still
good.
got him up. That's good over there, man.
Yeah, he's on it.
Fast catch.
Two seconds. 1. Alright, stop.
Oh no, that's it. We're good.
Alright, how many you got?
How many are on the floor? Count that.
At least
I know, I dropped like 5 there.
Yeah, the deduction.
If you tried to go down, it's just
I don't know about that.
How about I go down there and he like put his hand close to the raft and he can keep passing the balls, then I drop him on his
And
hand.
now what we
Then we go straight into the
Everyone that we
I'll
drop
catch him then.
Let's bring it up. Somebody else catch him. He just has a hand there while
so
he's.
he can have do that and pass the
Next
ball
ball
out.
time,
So
yeah.
they doesn't think about it.
Yeah, so just bounce like backwards.
That's a great idea.
if somebody's that accurate, they can hit him in the hand.
well, we'll throw to somebody else. that has
24 with
Yeah.
about 10 on the
So,
floor.
How about,
he's
oh,
not
10 on
trying
the
to
floor?
pass out
With
and
10 on the
catch.
floor.
And what was the number?
Team leader that.
So 24 total in the
24.
bucket.
Oh, you just gotta touch it and then
But
say-
they dropped 10
10's
10 on the ground. So
They're
14.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm
they're 14 points.
So they lost 14 guys.
They lost 10 points.
10 were on the ground.
So what'd we get?
24?
24 in the bucket, but lost 10 points. So
With
you're
10 on the
14.
ground.
We're 14.
You did goal.
Hey, we did one extra than where we losing
From
though.
going too fast. So if we were to go a little bit slower, we would have more out the door.
We'd be more, we'd be ahead.
All right, 1 minute, guys.
So you're changing things on scrum 3. You're going through scrum 3.
Do we wanna
Get closer a little bit. Yeah, bring it up, bring it up.
He's catching, he can be in the middle of the aisle. It's not behind you.
How about we throw it down the backside?
Either way, he just has to get it back to the
Alright,
bucket.
let's not throw it through where the toss is happening, just throw it
Tell
down
him
and
he's
kind of the
catching
other
on
side.
So did we talk
So
about?
you gotta make sure you don't get it passed to you with a right or a left. It's gotta go diagonal or straight to you.
Diagonal or straight?
Yeah, so they can't be like this or,
Can't be like that. It have to be diagonal.
yeah, it's gotta be diagonal or
So
straight
if you're
to
in the
you.
center, it's still
You
diagonal.
can't
Just make sure that,
So just changing.
diagonal?
That would be
That would
diagonal.
be diagonal, yes.
so you got your fingers in there like that.
You're not directly on the side.
Now, do I have to catch it or just have to touch it?
What?
Who's tossing it?
It has to touch you and then
Either one of them.
Okay. It's all good.
It's gotta touch everybody, so it can't
What are
be.
you gonna alley-oop it, or what are you gonna do?
Who's he tossing to? Is he tossing to you or is he
No,
tossing
he's
to me?
tossing it him.
Yeah, you were tossing to him.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you're not tossing to,
I think with this one, I think this is we're gonna be able to get 24.
24? Any bets on how many's on the floor?
Yeah.
6.
10.
10?
Alright, is everybody ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Or she. Yeah.
Alright, come on.
Go.
Good catch.
Josie, what are you doing over there?
Wait.
that's how it goes.
I'm gonna go over here.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, he can be right in front of me, can't he? He's facing me.
Oh, I see, okay.
We got some cloggage. Cloggage.
Who's on the ground? Who's on the ground?
Oh, one down.
Slow it down just a tiny bit over there.
There's sabotage down there.
Yeah, slow it down just a tiny bit.
Yeah, slow her down, we gotta figure it out
Slow down
down
and
here
throw
before
back.
we get going again, we'll let you know. Let them know we can speed back up, guys.
It's right at that edge. Really good.
He still got through his hand.
One minute.
A little better, we only have one down, you see.
Good pace.
20 points.
Clean points, yeah.
Sorry. Step back behind the line.
You're like,
I was in, trying to get it over,
We can maybe speed it up just a tiny bit, I think now. Alright. Yeah, I see back there.
25 seconds.
It's fast.
Everybody's focused, we're getting it done.
Look at that trash bag, that is full.
Stop.
Oh, nice.
What'd we get? That's pretty good. We got 1 on the ground, 2 on the ground. 3 on the ground.
Plus there's one that hit his hands, so.
Yeah, there
four.
was
The first one actually. Do you count the 1 minute in the 1 minute their counting time or after they count?
Uh, That's gotta be it, yeah.
I've been going after.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to do it. We're just figuring it out here. How come you think they're standing so far apart? Kinda lean, we try to move things together. They could be shoulder to shoulder.
I don't know.
It worked great, look at that. So it was a full size. 38.
Whoa.
Is that minus the ones we lost?
What Billy? So what was it?
38, and then you lost 4, so you did 30.
34.
34?
Lunch in the ground.
I said 24.
Right.
So we actually did 10
Steve had a good idea. Why are you guys standing so far apart? You can be shoulder to shoulder. You just gotta make sure.
Right.
Yeah, to where you can just
So we could
Drop it in
literally be
there.
this
Drop it.
close, right? And just, you know what I mean?
just drop.
We don't have to
drop
be
it
this
in
far
these
away.
Yeah, no.
here.
So let's move down. Move down.
Then that way, it'll be easier for you to toss.
You're gonna have
Is
this.
airtime good or is it
Yeah.
There's no,
Just has to be.
just has to be. Okay. It could be half second.
Like, I'm gonna get it from
Okay.
here.
Okay. Right?
Yeah, no, it's just
That's it.
going like this constantly.
You just can't go like this.
Just gotta try.
Do you need more than that? You're good to go.
This could be worse.
Alright, anybody got any estimates on this
You're
one?
waiting for that
How much
hand.
we're gonna get this time?
See the handout, you put it in the hand.
I think that if we keep a steady pace, if we keep a steady pace, we're not gonna have enough room in the basket. How many fit in the basket?
Well, it's 38, we were basically full.
Do we have another basket?
I don't know. We gotta,
55? You don't think we can hit 55?
I said we are.
How many more iterations are we gonna do?
It said 5 is.
5 iterations,
You're on
this is
round
number
4.
4?
Yeah.
we got a trash can.
There you go.
Nothing's in it.
Clean bag.
Basket.
Somebody puked.
Who's gonna count them?
Do you think we should? I saw somebody pushing me and then door on the and then it's right as
Ooh.
Hopefully they wipe your hands. No. There's a fire hole right there.
Do you wanna use that one?
There's a fireball wrapper in there? Is that what you said?
Yes, yes, I do.
If we go at a good pace.
What was the forecast?
So you're saying just
Just one hand.
What was the forecast there?
Well, we can do
We're
something.
saying 5?
Anybody got an estimate what we
You
can
gotta pay
do?
attention to how fast.
55, yeah.
I'm gonna say
55.
Yeah, one hand is probably good.
55.
So all the hands last time. That's pretty insane.
So are we gonna do one hand, or are we gonna do 2 hands?
You guys all wanna do one hand?
So-
Do one hand, it
We
puts
gotta have
it.
you do one hand, you gotta go a little tight.
So
I feel like
let's
it's
say-
slower, right? But he's
But I feel like 2 hands gonna be complicated.
We're gonna have you do one hand.
The logistics of that is we only have 54 dollars.
Oh, what did we say?
That's a good
Oh,
one.
he said 55.
Okay, if you go to 70, you can start.
You just transferring it. It's like one hand, you just slide the basket there.
Yeah.
You all gotta be on the same page though.
Recycle, yeah.
You guys hear
I'll be able to recycle one.
Leave that one hand on.
Alright, is everybody ready? Yeah, he's gonna go there, yeah.
No, I don't.
Alright, ready?
Go.
Yeah, I don't know if this is good.
Not supposed to fall on yourself.
My headshot. Try not to be too high or it's fumble.
one hand on it, so it just touches and then goes in. That's
Yeah.
actually, we read the rule.
Oh. Yeah,
You float.
that's pretty awesome.
You gotta save it.
We got the tall guy dunking on a low room.
25 seconds.
This is basket.
You want to start reading for just a second, go back.
5, 4,
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
2, 1, and we're done.
I mean, I pull out that before.
I feel like that was.
Yeah, well, I recycled 5 of these.
Did they get all the way back?
Oh, yeah, no, they didn't. Okay.
So wait, how many got on the ground?
4 on the ground.
So whatever's in here plus the 4 I pulled out, that's what counts in here. So yeah, we got through 54.
54, but only 50 made it back in.
Yeah. Like,
So we get 54?
We did
We almost
50
got
in the bucket,
50 in
and
the
4 on the
bucket.
ground, so 54 total. But
Okay.
So if we just stay at the same pace with what we're doing, just maybe go a little bit slower, and, or just focus a little harder, we can hit it,
yep.
Keep the fun
I think
out
so.
there for sure.
right? And then only take out when we don't have anything left, that way we don't,
Oh, we start a new basket.
Basically, do the
Yeah,
same
you
thing,
started.
but focus on quality, not quantity.
yes.
Forecast is what?
60?
Yeah, easily.
60.
60.
Okay, so keep it.
You were doing this a lot every time.
I was thinking of muscle memory thing, like,
Basketball.
I'm like worried I'm gonna hit someone's head.
It worked.
Whatever works
I
for you.
know.
Whatever
I play soccer, so I get, but it's.
works for you.
Everybody have 2 cups. Alright, everybody ready?
Ready?
Alright, ready.
Go.
Slow down just a little bit, guys. Just a little bit. Like hold it for 1 and then pass it.
You're not on the end process, you can go quick.
A little faster, guys.
Man, you're Superman,
Good catch, good catch.
Like half the time more than what we were doing.
He's gotta keep his groove, so you gotta go a little faster.
John Stockton. Oh shit.
Stay focused. Don't lose
I
it.
gotta
So
start.
get tilted.
Don't worry about the light.
Remember how many you're
She's
cycling.
swallowing.
4, 6.
done.
So 54 plus 8 with
How many are still in the system?
how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4? So I pulled 8, so 56.
56 minus.
Only on the ground, 2, 3. I dropped, I think it was 3 because I dropped
Yeah.
one.
So
So what was the final number?
53.
Oh.
53.
A little bit.
All right. Let's have a little conversation about what occurred.
So once we throw like a wrench in the plan, they're gonna keep you apart.
We've got it on video, so we can do it post-game analyst here.
I like that one when we were doing in the leadership class with the strings. We should do this, combine that with that, and say, no, you gotta have a day off, so one
Yeah, we
other
don't
guy.
Yeah. That would be-
Andrew, you can't talk anymore?
That works? I'm not offended, I'm good.
I think Eli, yeah, I think it really pushed this to 2, because it said 2 hours. And I've done it less than that, but why put it? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
You can stay over, we can, okay, we'll do it that way. I think we're, the airplane scrum, we're gonna push that till Tuesday because I talked too long on the PowerPoint description. But I think it's important for us to have an introduction of 2 scrum as we did. Back on as we review the PowerPoints in our minds and we compare that to what we did there, what were some of the similarities? What are some of the things that we did that are scrum-like as we got the team together? Jake was in charge. Did Jake look you in the eye and tell you what to do?
Nope.
He didn't. And he doesn't have to as a scrum master. You put the team together and the team figured out things. A lot of the improvements were little things, right? You decided to drop into the hand. You transferred hands. You didn't do one-handed thing. You built some efficiency in. The very first scrum, your actual was 13. You forecasted 12. And there was a lot of noise going on. There was a lot of talking. There was a bit of confusion. There was you didn't get busted for every one that you dropped on round 1. We were just figuring things out. There was some dropping. By round 2, scrum number 2, there was some amazing reactions. I don't know which one. It might have been the last one. Josie, I thought that one was going to the ground. The one that I don't know how you caught it. I saw 4 or 5 people, miss it, and then caught it, and then miss the next one. It's like, whoa, how did that happen? That's pretty amazing. So I don't know if our skill sets improved, our reaction times improved, or our focus improved. Don't know what it was, but we actually were sloppier in some of our transfers and still recovered. The long pitch from the end of the line back to the beginning of the line, I was certain was not going to work. And if you'd have put me on the scrum team, I would have said, you're gonna have a 50% yield on that. So Brad, pretty good throwing, great throwing, not pretty good, great throwing, and catching both players that did the catching like almost just never missed. So that worked. That was not you were athletes, so that's helpful. If you'd have put a non-athlete at either end there, we'd have had a little bit worse result. Because that was risk. That was a lot of airtime and getting that right over and over and over again because Eric was doing 2 things, or 3. You're getting recycled balls, putting them in circuit, catching when you were on the 3rd scrum, and you did well. Only dropped a couple, I think. And so you can put that on the throw.
Totally.
Yeah.
Too much heat on
Air's deflated.
You wound up not talking at all. Did you remember how quiet it was? We could hear the ball hitting your hands, and that was pretty cool. Excuse me. The innovation, I don't know who came up with this as just an example of small things, how they can make a real difference. The ball had to come back and it had to touch the originator, right? The ball had to come back to Eric. So on the last two scrums anyway, Eric didn't consciously touch the return ball at all. He put his hand on the trash can, and you bounced it off his hand every time. So it touched him. He met the rules of the game, but you didn't have, you
It was
could
their
put
fault.
that piece out of your brain. You didn't have to concentrate or focus on that, and that helps, that's a Pocoyo kind of thing that we borrow from Lean. You guys were paying attention to something in Lean that we would call tactile. And Joel out loud, Andrew out loud, were working on pacing, getting the pacing right, too fast, too slow, and speed up, slow down, which is something that we want to do in standardizing processes, whether we're in Lean or we're in Scrum. The whole purpose of having daily Scrums is to keep a tack time of sorts, but it's a little bit of different than a tack time in Lean. In Lean, the tack time is completely pull. Now, what do I mean by pull?
You pull the product to you.
It's pulling the product from the end. So the demand is pulling it. So in other words, in a Kanban type setting, if Eric didn't have a ball in his hand to return to the bucket, then he needed one. That was a call. That's pulling from the end.
He would have dropped a new one until he had one in his hand.
Right, that's correct. That's correct. It would have been a one-piece swap, like that. But in this Scrum, the tack time is determined by the team rather than pull. So that's a slight difference from Lean. The team saying, how fast, how slow can you go? And you had moments where you were all greased up and you were all in rhythm, and so that tack time was a natural flow. When we changed the process, somewhere between Scrum 3 and Scrum 4, you moved closer together. Technically almost shoulder to shoulder, non-COVID distances, right? We went shoulder to shoulder. Now, that wasn't a major change. The lineup stayed the same. The concept of how you were transferring the ball stayed the same. But what didn't stay the same was your positions, where you were in other people's space, technically. And that's awkward for a moment for all of us. And it took a second for you guys to adjust to that. It was the rhythm change, and then it sped up. And the fourth time through the Scrum, I timed the first ball from Eric to when it got thrown back, and it was 12 seconds. And on the fifth time through, the flow was, the velocity was at 8 seconds. So that's a 50% almost improvement in how long it took for the first ball. And you measure that in your shop when you buy a piece of wood. How long does it take for that piece of wood to turn itself into a part of a wall head that is being shipped? And that's called throughput in the plant. And we look at throughput because that's cash we have tied up, and we want to push that cash through as fast as we can, that throughput. And so your throughput was measured by a tennis ball in time, seconds. You all had the same investment in that you touched it, but you didn't touch it for as long. And so by not touching it as long, company makes more money, right? As long as your scrap rate didn't go up. But what happened to your scrap rate? It went from 14 to 4 to 4 to 4. So percentage-wise, 4 of 34 is a higher percentage of scrap than 4 of 62 is, right? I don't know if I've got those numbers exactly right, but something like that. So 4 of 62, that's what, 1/15 or something scrap rate. That's not Six Sigma level, but it's improved quite a lot. Could you improve the scrap rate further? Scrap rate meaning drop tennis balls. How would you do that?
Trained operators.
Hire robots. Come on, get monkeys.
I would say go slower.
Okay, first thing we'd want to do if we're going to improve something and we say a problem is scrap, the first thing always we want to do is go, where is the scrap being generated? So what's causing the scrap first? And in this case, I would have thought most of the scrap would have been generated on the long throw. It wasn't, of all the scrap that was generated, it was only the last couple where that was where the problem. It was more in the middle of the system. where we had people looking two ways, not knowing whether, kind of not knowing whether they could push or pull, not knowing whether the receiver was available or not available. You gotta look, in the meanwhile, you miss this one coming in. And so that pass off for the flow, a process develops its natural flow, always, whether we got trained people, untrained people, whatever. It develops its natural flow. Some of that's culture, where we got no sense of urgency. We wait around, there's no drive. That's a culture issue. Or the process itself, there are certain motions that we went through that determined what the comfortable flow of the process was. And without dwelling or having a conversation on it all, you naturally worked on better flow. You naturally worked on fewer motions, shorter motions, better motions. At first, remember Scrum 1? You threw it to the person across from you. By Scrum 2, you'd already figured out, let's just do a drop. That's airtime. We're not going to miss. We have to focus on it. If you try to do it like this, you will miss. But if you take the time to do that, it will develop its own natural flow, but it's going to be faster than the first one was. And so you see your numbers improving, from a forecast of 12 to 20 to 24 to 55 to 60. Your actuals 13, 14 minus scrap. After scrap was out, to 34 to 50 to 53. It went up it went up every time. 58. Yeah, 58. Can't remember right. And so if we did it 3 more scrums, I suspect we could continue that improvement. It's not logarithmic; it's linear. But I think that at some point it will plateau. Right? We'll reach our maximum of this process. We have to change the process in order to get it fast. So part of it is working on speed and coordination, and then part of it is the process itself, right? So the process itself will have its constraints, and you all know that from Lean. And then as we look at project management, if we were to look at a principle called MUDA, some of you've heard that word before. It's a Lean term. If you've heard the word MUDA before, let me know what it is. What is MUDA?
Waste.
Waste. MUDA is a Japanese word for waste. They have 3 words that sound very similar for different types of waste. MUDA is the most common that we use in business of looking for waste. They name 7 or 8 types of waste, but it's anything we do that doesn't add value is waste. And so if the game was to get the tennis ball from Eric back to Eric, everybody touching it in some pattern, there's waste is time that the ball's in the air, but it has to be in the air. But waste is the time the ball's in the air, and the waste is the time the ball's in my hand. It's not moving when it's in my hand. So anything that I can drive waste out is going to be beneficial to the company because it doesn't affect the customer's requirement. The customer requirements get the ball all the way around the circle, or not the circle, but through to every team member. And so figuring out ways to remove waste, you got closer together, that removed waste. So automatically you were changing processes to eliminate some MUDA. And so there's all kinds of MUDA that is that you could look at, and we'll talk about those at a later time in a project. Let's suppose that you are a construction project manager down here in Desert Colors, and you're working for one of the companies that's building houses down there. So typical tennis ball movement would be you're trying to progress the house and get the house done. You start out maybe with, let's say you pour concrete, you pour the footings for the house, and you have the framers come in and put the frame up on the house, and then you have the drywallers, sheetrockers come in and put sheetrock up. Somewhere you have the electricians come in as well, right, and wire the house. And then you paint it, and you put the flooring in, you put the cabinets in, you put the appliances in. After it's all done, the wall bed guy has to come in without scratching anything to put that in. instead of building it right in the first place, but that's another story. So waste, and that could be every time you have to wait to pass your tennis ball to the guy next to you or across from you. So I can't install my cabinets until the wall is up, right? I can't come in there on day one and install my cabinets because you're not ready for them. So how do we typically work it in a project? Building a house is, okay, I'm the guy that puts the cabinets in. I can't put the cabinets in until the wall is up. Call me when the wall is up. So they do that. They call me and tell me the wall is up. And I go, oh, okay, I'm on a job. I'll finish my job tomorrow. I'll have a crew there day after tomorrow in the morning. Meanwhile, what are you doing with the tennis ball? Just waiting. You're waiting, and the job is sitting there with nothing being done on the job. You're just waiting for the next contractor to get finished with what they're doing and come in. So if you're a project manager, if you can more seamlessly eliminate that wait time, you can bring the job in faster, right? You can get the project completed faster. So a good thing to do as a project manager is starting out with looking at where waste is at. You kind of did that with the ball. Now, we'll look at some other lean principles and as they apply to Scrum. When Eli teaches us how to manufacture beginning, intermediate, and advanced paper airplanes, which we will do 5 Scrums also, and we will learn a different set of Scrum tools in class on Tuesday. So come, be ready. How far does this airplane have to fly? 5 feet? 6 feet? 6 feet. That's the length of our desk. So that's not too long, but I've thrown a lot of airplanes that have nosedived prior to that. So your finished airplane has a performance standard that it's going to need to meet, and our teams will be building and delivering satisfactory aircraft that are acrobatic airplanes for the air show business. That is a summertime kind of thing. Lots of airplanes being used in air shows. So we're going to manufacture those in class on Tuesday. Please do get a handout. There are enough in the back of the room. If you didn't pick them up on the way in, take a handout. The 3 articles that are there, we are all Scrum Guide articles. Now that you've done a Scrum project, and we understand the iteration, we understand that the team decided what to do. Jake didn't tell you what to do. The team figured out, and the team dynamically, at the end of every Scrum, you had a conversation about how to make it better and how to do it better on the next Scrum. It's very iterative and very quick. And so we'll do that with airplane manufacturing and some other stuff on Tuesday. So read those articles over the weekend. If you got nothing to do on Saturday, and they like the car show and bands and food, they're here from breakfast to mid-afternoon on Saturday right here on campus. And since you guys are students in here, you have kind of the inside track. You're one of us. It's your place. So if you know somebody that ought to put a car in a car show, do that. I think there will be 130 cars or something like that. There'll be some nice ones up here. And if we can talk anybody into racing, we will. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying if we can talk anybody into it, we will do that. So that's going on Saturday here. I will see you Tuesday afternoon at 5:30. Have a great weekend.
You entering your car?
Probably. I don't know.
Are you gonna race it?
I definitely will do that. If somebody went. You know, the first year, the run was so long. Yeah. And one of the guys, Chris Kill, he sells, he owns a company that sells paint and he sells and he has McLaren and Porsche GT3 here. And,
You know, if we said, hey, we'll just keep Saturday,
he said, let me do it
needs to be here.
fast, not too fast. And he ran, and he hit it and ran.
5 years old, so I can
His
register
Porsche, he
as
wasn't going.
keep a classic
Maybe
plate.
one
Unless we pay.
And it,
Which is not,
he was
not
afraid
something that
to-
we would be opposed to,
Oh,
but
no.
it would be.
Did you get airtime?
It would be better
He-
for us
he
to
was afraid
schedule
that he'd
something
lose
during
control
the week.
of the
And do it like, hey, we're not gonna go
But it was cool, so I followed him a little bit, didn't go that far. If that did patch, then there was a problem. Really,
Right.
I've got 4 Corvettes, 2 Porsches. They're not short quality, I drive them. But, you got a garage full of stuff like this too. You bring something up, right? Some of the fastest vehicles here are the trucks, as you know.
1,500 horsepower Duramaxes, Jesus Christ.
There'll be some cool trucks here. In fact, the band is playing on a flatbed, I think, of somebody's got a trick semi truck. I mean, it's a $1 zillion truck, it's weird.
I got to see one the other day.
Yeah.
The dyno 1400.
That's cool.
I'm still.
Insane.
Out of a semi.
Okay.
And then there was a video after that.
Dude had it
Yeah.
loaded up, so that should be good, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's got your email address on it?
Yeah, no, it does.
Oh, okay. You give it to me right here, again, if you would, please. Just let me write it.
Well, in his case, it's drop a gear and stay still.
Yes, they keep going the same speed, but there's a giant black cloud.
That's hilarious.
Okay, let me make sure I got that. That's a colon, right?
That's an I.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Didn't think you could syntax of that. Okay. All right, you played some ball, huh? A little bit? I could tell. Jake, thanks for doing that. You did a good job. It's perfect.
That's called not wasting employee potential.
That's right. That's exactly right. We're drafting correctly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm over at Modern Warrior. Chris Kale from Five Finger Death Punch. He's the bassist. He's going to be doing a meet and greet over at Modern Warrior, 10 to 3
Saturday,
on
too.
Saturday.
I heard that they were having a thing.
Yeah, their employee appreciation. So I'm going to go and get, shake his hand and get
Hey,
him a
nice.
poster for the second time because I'm a big fan of theirs. But I'm going to slip in my card for Wild and Mopeds. I also want to see if I can get his contact info to see if he could come and talk to the class. Because I was at their concert last weekend, and they got a song called "Got Your Six," and they're all military and all that kind of stuff. And they got me thinking, what they do on stage is basically leadership, because they have to make sure that all those thousands of fans are having a good time. They're in their seats, they're doing their thing, and stuff like that. And the worst thing that could happen to a concert happened at ours. Power went out for Megadeth. They had technical difficulties during Megadeth and stuff like that. So Megadeth went from an 8-set to a 4-set song set, and then a drunk driver hit a transformer, knocked out the power to West Valley City and Magna, Utah. 5 songs into Five Finger Death Punches, and had to cut it short.
Whoa.
So the two co-headliners ended up forced to do short sets, and it was the last stop of their tour.
Wow.
So talk
Are they
about
from Vegas?
500 is from Vegas.
That's what I thought, yeah.
So Chris Kale comes up here to Modern Warrior and buys guns from Modern Warrior, and so I'm hoping anyway. I feel like I know the guy and stuff, but because I've been a fan of the music for so long.
Yeah.
But our product, Wild and Wolfens, might fit in his home. Kind of cool to install a bed in his house. So I'm gonna slip in the card.
Yeah.
But then I'm also gonna see if I can get a PR email so that we can reach out to him and see if he would want to come and talk to us.
So cool.
And since he's up here all the time.
Yeah, anytime that he would be willing to do that, that would be, in fact, we could even we could broaden the invite to more people than just us.
I would love, me personally, because I don't have anything signed by the whole cast, by Ivan and all that. I'd love to get Ivan, especially since he's starting to retire from heavy metal.
Okay.
I'd love to get Ivan, but I don't know if that's going to be possible.
Well, the business, a band is a business, and running what they're doing is, he's got 100 days.
Oh, yeah.
About to us, that would be so cool.
Project management.
Yeah.
Just think, what a project has to be something that's done one time and standardized, right? So getting the equipment on the stage, get it set up, get it tuned, get it ready, so that band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4 before, can play and not have to have to take stuff off and bring stuff
Yeah, how do
home.
you do that?
How do you do that?
Yeah,
How many people are involved?
yeah,
So,
big deal.
big deal, big production. And so I'm like, it goes along with it.
Wow, what time is you gonna be there?
10 to 3.
10 to
So
3.
I'm going to be there at 9 like I was last time. And so, but they're going to have like corn dog company and stuff over there too. But I'm also going to buy gun parts. So
Yep.
I love buying gun parts. So I'm in the middle of a project building an AR-15. So but I'm doing it the slow way, you know, one part here, one part there, you know. But I'm getting the ones that I want, not just the ones that are a good price. Yeah. So it's like, so I have the upper, lower buffer tube, buttstock that I want. I'm missing the barrel, the gas block, the bolt carrier group, the handguard, and those device. So I'll get it. So,
And I've got one I'm working on too, but I'm machine the lower.
oh, okay.
Cracked, so it's good.
Okay. Yeah, I looked into doing stuff like that, but I was like, for me, you know, in the state of Utah, there is no registration.
They know who's got it.
You know, they know who's got it. They don't, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, serialized lower is fine for me, you know, and so it's a personal choice, you know.
It's fine for me too, I was
Yeah.
more just a machining challenge.
Yeah, I do want to, but I just don't have all the tools for it,
Yeah.
you know, to do it to the level of quality that
Yeah,
I
oh,
want
you
to
need
do
to
it,
do it on
you know.
the CNC.
Exactly, and I don't have CNC, I don't have like a drill press, I don't have an engineer that can do that, and so I'm like, I'll just stick with serialized. Because the only difference is once I could do a Palmer 80 lower and just later, you know, if it does come down to it, somebody's gonna come knock or pin the nuts and say, just the lower, that's all I have to give. Everything else, where's the rest of it? This is all I bought. That's the gun.
Yeah, they're the ones that say it's good.
Exactly. You guys say this is a gun, so here's a chunk of
If
aluminum.
it comes to the point where it's not knocking on our doors,
Exactly.
it's correct anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, but, so, also, you suggested last module, I may be looking for an ability here, so, the leadership, I admire what's going on at Wiley. I admire that, you know, Dennis is trying to retire, he's trying to get his kids up to date. They're going through some stuff, like, I've been working there for 16 years, I didn't know what the core value system is. It just happened to align with mine, my natural core value system. So they're putting it together and putting it through the shop and initiating and stuff like that. And one of them was assume positive intent. So it's like, okay, cool. Well, I screwed up about 2 months ago and I got butt chewing because I screwed up. No positive intent. What are you doing? What's going on in your life? What's going on? They're not living that out. And so, and as well as my evaluation year, it's tied to a yearly performance eval. I turned in my performance eval. So,
You report to the administrators.
I report to school. But, you know, my buddy Theo was here for like the first day. He couldn't do it because this class, because of his family and stuff. And all system, all my son, all that. He turned his in 2.5 months later. But for him to get his. And so I'm like,
So what do you look for?
uh,
What do you look for?
basically, I want to get away from customer service, you know, but more possibly like network administration, you know, something that's more what I want to do, what I wanted to do my whole life, you know. So, but if you hear anything, you know.
Well, I'll put my ear to this, because, you know, it's talent that people find.
Exactly.
When we've got character and talent, they can do, and that might be, they might really love the fact that you've got all this production experience and this industry experience. It's a real,
Yeah.
you know, that might be exactly technically the right match.
Yeah, I'm hoping. My wife, she just got she's been working for the same accounting company for 18 years, and she just got a nice, it's like 10.04% or 10.4% raise this year. You know, so she's now $80,000 a year now. So, but I'm still way less than that.
Yeah, but you should be, the skill sets you got.
And I'm in charge of 2 departments. You know, I should have been in HR for long.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm focused on taking out 1 department currently.
Well, let's see what's on. I'll be glad that those around.
So that was great because I've been thinking about it. I was fine with it, and about 3 weeks ago is when the stuff happened. And about a week after that, we had a huge wall issue. You know, just sending stuff out the door. And she was like 42% hit rate. We improved it to 32% hit rate.
That's
It's
close to.
you're not even close to it.
Yeah.
And so they're focused on getting stuff out the door faster. And it's like you have a 40% error rate, you can go faster. You know, so then it's turned into, it's just political, just politics, and I understand, so I guess that's not the problem, and, you know, 42% error rate, and wanna go faster, get more stuff out the door faster. We incorporated a second product line, TV lists instead of wall beds and stuff, so I mean, we're trying to get the customers more biscuits in the bucket, but yet the hole keeps getting bigger to let them out. And we get put on budgets and spending freezes and threats of potential layoffs and employees that are literally just hired a new customer service agent to help you get out of being active customer service agent and in charge of that department and in charge of installations and deliveries and an active installer. It's like this customer service job because nobody in the company can do it. You know? And that was also another one. Hey, I met Dennis and I talked to my boss and was like, well, how come you didn't talk to me? Because I've been to Phoenix twice in the last month. There's no public calendar saying when or where he's gonna be to help but then hindsight's 20/20. It's what I could have done that.
I thought we didn't know what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's a blame game of, you know, you take the hindsight information and blame the decision based off the hindsight information instead of it's just not there. And it's stressful.
Well, that should cost them.
It's something that should cost them. So,
They don't fix it, they should expect to see.
and Leo's, because there's such a focus on the production, Leo's is on the incoming product side, the supply chain. So they're trying to push it out the door faster, but they don't know if they can get it in the door as fast as they want to get it out the door. And so I asked like probably about 4 months ago, and they started doing this whole big, you know, push. And it's like, well, where's your roadmap? I want a roadmap so I know how I can find my departments. And that's a really good idea. We're gonna have a meeting, bring all you guys up to speed. The meeting was rescheduled 3 times and indefinitely just not happening. So I'm literally flying blind, reacting rather than reacting to information. So I'm not, I personally feel like I'm not being effective at my job.
So
I'm not efficient to a good job because if I had to, it's stuff. Yeah. So,
Well, there's bright stuff out there,
mm,
and maybe it's time to stick your head above water and go and see what's out there.
yeah.
Maybe use your talent.
Yeah, and I would love to get into technology, that's what I've been kind of pushing, and I just got with Wilding, I just kind of branched off, and I can see value to myself at Wilding, you know,
thing.
They're trying.
Have some questions and, you know, let Dustin off your resume.
So I'm updating my resume from the .com now, JESmith.com. It's got it's a resume website. The information is there, but the pictures are not me. So I just use a template, HTML5 template. I did all that. I didn't pay somebody. I found the template, it was free. I edited it myself. Threw it up on there. Go get pictures. I know how to take some pictures, modify the pictures. You know, I'm using a host, so I'm not hosting it myself, but I can if I wanted to. You know, I'm actually hosting another website. It's basically just putting my website on my computer. Just being able to configure email server, host, edit HTML, the limited knowledge that I have, just messing around. Yeah, I don't know how to code. I can figure it out.
That's what I presume.
You know, taught myself how to do bash scripting with automated updates for all the service bits. So, I don't know how to program, but I can bash scripts. So, when I talked to my wife about it, she's like, you know, I'm hearing it from Charlie Brown's teacher.
Yeah, but you still need to practice talking. So tell her what you're doing. She's doing you a favor.
So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna start working on, but I'm definitely, for Andrew, it's great for his wildlife, RPG and stuff like that. Wildlands is second chance.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
For
Cool.
me, it's just,
So,
so. So,
I don't blame you for what you're reporting, it's too bad. They should just, but sometimes the stuff long time.
That is a long time, but, you know,
Yeah, you don't wanna jump around, you wanna
Yeah.
get a nice next track.
well, and on top of that, it's like getting involved with that company, that, you know, for the next 25 years is just working with that.
Yeah.
I've been with Valley for 16, but it's,
Yeah. There's reasonable expectations to get it right, it's, you know, you can be there.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
but, you know, when that kid that's growing up, I'm gonna show, hey, don't be afraid of change, it's for the right reasons, it's just,
Yeah.
and, yeah, they don't like that, preach on, you need to do it better, you know, I don't like that.
No, really.
Not the other one that's making us look happy, that sucks, you know, I want to, it's this whole quality issue that I just kind of trying to calm them down, it's like, hey, this doesn't happen very often, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then I got on the phone with him and I started looking at the numbers and I'm like, this particular instance where it just didn't send the phone back against the company. It's not very often, it's like, what? So I like the customer.
Well, you didn't mean it.
I didn't mean to.
But you start looking at the data.
Start looking at the data.
Oh, hell, we do it all the time.
And I'm like, that goes against my personal.
Right,
You know?
yeah. What is your base case name? I'm gonna write that down here.
It's
Fine.
Chris Kale.
Chris Keel.
Kale, CHRIS, KAL.
South.
South.
Okay.
It might be KAL, I'm not sure. So, yeah, I'm gonna get him and his I mean, capture audience right there, you know? He's gotta shake my hand, 'cause I
Well-
stood in line for a signature.
Yeah, and, you know,
And he's up here all the time anyway. so.
they're looking at, I mean, you know, when they've made it, you know, and so, you know, give back a little bit to the college would be kind of cool, just to come talk,
I think it'd be cool.
maybe wait.
You know, and from what I know of him, just meeting him, like, we went through just last, 6 months ago when we did this for the first time, when he came out for the first time. He took time for my son, shook his hand, hey buddy, what's going on, you know, stuff like that. What's your name, Boston? Hey Boston, thanks Boston, signed it, the poster, thanks Boston, you know. Chris Gale Fight with that poster. So my son had a poster of him with it personalized to him. And then my wife went through, oh, I don't need a poster, my son, my husband's gonna get one, you know, and then I shook her hand, hey, oh yeah, talked to her for 5-10 minutes, you know. And then my turn, so it's like 10 minutes per personal post. Wow. And granted, in front of mine, back, right, but still, he was still addressing you as, you know.
That's
So
awesome.
what's your name? Oh, hey baby, how you doing? You know, shaking your hand, hey, let's get some pictures. You know?
Yeah.
And so to see people who are like that, and I've gotten signatures from the corner, you know?
Yeah.
And granted it was a whole different type of app, type of, you know, thing. I got Rob's on signatures too on CDs, but it was like CD, almost like here, you know,
So,
and then you're like, oh my god, they got this CD, this, you know. But I got a good story about that one, because I went through Rob Zombie, and I moved back around, so my wife goes through the corner, you know, it's the area. While I was standing outside of the line, my wife in the line, Rob Zombie got out his scooter and drove by. And everybody's like, hey Rob, hey Rob, and I'm just chilling with my life, and he comes by and he goes, and he shakes my hand as he was driving by.
recognizing that,
So-
so that's a good one.
And so I was like, hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I gave him the handle zombie. And so,
Oh.
yeah, that's my gamer handle.
That's
zombie.
perfect.
And so they're all, zombie, I'm like, am I here? Right here. But I told everybody now I've actually been touched by the zombies.
By the zombies. Indeed. That's cool. Cool.
I'll let you
Well,
know
have
if I
fun
find
on
out.
Saturday, and I may pop by there if I can, I gotta break out of here, but I'd like, that'd be cool.
I might pop up here after there.
And definitely invite him, that would be
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
I mean, what's it gonna say?
We're a
No,
small
I'm
college,
sorry,
you know.
you know. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm in a performance leadership class, and what you do on stage is
all
very
that.
similar to what we're learning about.
Yeah.
Can I get an email to where I can at least email you and see, you know, if you would want to come and talk to us?
Yeah.
What's it gonna say? No?
Say no is the worst thing, yeah. That'd be awesome. cool. Good luck.
All right, thank you, sir.
See you, man.